This is Moments of Truth, the webcast for customer success professionals, and I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker. Today, I'm joined by Keri Keeling, Global Head of Customer Success Innovation and Intelligence at VMware. Keri, welcome to the program. Thanks for making time for me today. Great to see you as always. Why don't you tell those who are listening about VMware and what your role entails?
Hi, it's so great to be here. It's great to see you. Long time no talk. So I'm new to VMware. I've accepted a role to join their customer success and experience team, and I think it's really actually a fascinating opportunity because VMware is one of the few companies that I've seen that are merging customer experience with customer success. And for a long time in my career, I've always had question marks kind of floating above my head about the connective tissue between CX and CSM. And one of the fascinating things about VMware is they've really doubled down on the service delivery to the customer. And I don't necessarily mean the product. I mean the way that we are servicing the customers, the way that we're driving goodness with the customers. We're totally focused on outcomes and value realization. And it's been a breath of fresh air to see a company of this size really wrestle this all the way down to the ground from the outside in, looking at everything from the customer perspective and then driving that in. And so with the organization and their merging of the experience and success motions, what's come of that is a lot of interesting new roles. Mine included. I kind of feel a little bit like a mad scientist, actually. I don't know anybody that's doing what I'm doing. So currently I own the Voice of the Customer program. Working to redesign the complete Voice of the Customer, the end-to-end Voice of the Customer program, which is inclusive of, the board level, corporate level relationship NPS survey, transactional surveys, in-product feedback, using predictive technologies, machine learning technologies, as well as natural language processing to be able to scrape and listen for customer sentiment. And then I also own the long tail tech touch and the low touch of customer success, right? So when you think about most large companies, 20% of their customers make 80% of their revenue. And that kind of denotes that the long tail makes up 80% of the actual customer base. But usually they don't get the same level of a high-touch customer success motion than what you would normally expect to see like out in the market, right? And so my role is to leverage a lot of the data, the intelligence that we have, the Voice of the Customer program, and then turn that into how do we drive value realization and outcomes programmatically. We're predictable, it's at scale, and we're allowing our customers to be fully independent and not depending on people for adoption, value realization, and their own outcomes.
Wow, there's a lot there. I love the marrying of customer success and customer experience. I've for a long time I've talked about that. I've talked to a lot of CX professionals about that as well. How customer experience is customer experience and customer success need to be wed, right? And people think of customer experience as a lot of customer experience being customer journey mapping, right? Well, but there needs to, you might have that vision of how a customer is going to interact with your brand, but customer success is the plumbing. I like to use the analogy of when an architect designs a home for you, they do a 3D relief, kind of perspective on what the home is going to look like when you're, from the owner's perspective when they're walking up to the house, and then they also deliver a set of technical plans for the contractor. Say, okay, build this. Right. And so I look at that as, customer experience is, okay, here's that here's that 3D perspective. Here's what we want the customer to experience when they're walking up to their home, what they want to see. And customer success is the is the foundation of the home, is what you need to have in place in order to have that vision.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, it's kind of interesting because when you look at the way that customer experience and customer success has existed historically and even still today, usually marketing owns customer experience. It's based on customer advocacy. It's based on, what you're talking about. It's the human emotion. It's the, how do you feel about our brand? Do you understand? And then customer success is really more pragmatic, right? It's like, am I driving your outcomes? Is this working for you? It's highly metric focused, and never the two shall meet,
right?
In most big organizations. And that was where I got excited about the opportunity at VMware, was because that marrying of the two. When I look at, my experiences at other big companies that I've been with, how bifurcated those approaches have always been. And even in smaller companies, I should say, CX and CSM oftentimes aren't even in the same, under the same VP, right? They're under, like I said, marketing,
yeah.
And then whoever report, wherever customer success reports. So it was a pretty exciting and telling strategy for me about where VMware is going with their customers, and how, how they really want to move into that innovative space with how they're driving outcomes for their customers. And what's even more interesting is we just, we're getting ready to release a program that brings into view other elements that drive goodness. So you'll have to stay tuned for the announcement at VMware. If you're listening and you're a VMware customer, please join us at VMware World, or VMworld rather, excuse me. But the innovation doesn't just stop with the merging of experience and success. And then of course my neck of the world, the innovation really drives forward with merging of very, very key components of service delivery to our customers, so that they can continue to focus on what they do best in their own company, right? And we're really helping them to do exactly that.
Right, and that's that whole concept of being focused on outcome focused customer success, which is what how it should be. We actually have introduced a new program called outcome based selling that talks about introducing customer success into the latter stages of the sales process, right? And start thinking, helping the customer think about, okay, what are the outcomes? Not just got this tactical product, but what am I trying to get out of that, and having that flow through all the way from the end of the sales process through the delivery and on to the lifespan of the customer. So, introducing concepts like success plans and to really drive that focus on the outcome.
Yeah, and I think that that's such an important strategy for pretty much any company, right? When you begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
What do you want to get out of this? Why, it's not just what features do you need, it's where are you going with your own organization, and what's good look like for you, what metrics are you being managed by. And I think that that's it's absolutely critical to be able to sell from that vantage point. The side effect of that is manyfold. Lower churn, more upsell, happier customers, so yeah, I love that you guys are taking that approach. I think there's so much value there.
We referred, so we're huge fans of beginning with the end in mind. We actually refer to and push as recommended reading Coveys' 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And that's number 2 on the list. Begin with the end in mind. Number 1 on the list is be proactive, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like a manifesto for customer success is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Thinking win-win,
Yep.
seek to
Seek first to
understand,
understand.
then be understood, you know? Yeah. You know, it's, you know, I was just talking with somebody about this. They said, what are some important skills that for somebody in customer success? I said, yeah, active listening and open-ended questions, right? God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen twice as much as we're talking.
So you remind me. I worked once with a man who and just love this individual. He is amazing and probably one of the smartest people that I've ever met. He it's funny that you talk about the 2 ears and 1 mouth. He has a thing that he calls, people get hippopotamus syndrome.
Hippopotamus syndrome.
Yes. I'll let you take a whack at what he means by that. Think about a hippopotamus. What are the attributes about a hippopotamus that people get?
It's big, it's dangerous. It spends time, it can spend time in the water and on the land.
Right?
Uh
So I'll let you off the hook. So a lot of people will get hippopotamus syndrome because when they have 2 little teeny tiny ears and 1 great big giant mouth.
Right.
And so it's that listening, right? You don't want hippopotamus syndrome when you're doing all the talking, especially when you're trying to understand what your customers' needs are. Then that should be an immediate clue that.
Exactly. For sure. Love that. That's great.
It'll be my next t-shirt.
Yeah. Will you send me one?
Yes, I will. COVID is causing me to create all these neat little t-shirts, right? I have you're on mute. I was on mute.
I love the you're on mute.
No hippos. I'm building my t-shirt.
I love the mute thing.
Yes.
So I would love to, but I know you're just getting into the role.
Yeah.
But the voice of the customer, customer programs, those are going to be, that's something that you're doing for both you're doing that for all different types, all segments of the customer.
Yeah. So I'm actually taking kind of a different approach, which is, I don't know if other people are doing it. I haven't found it. So if you're out there and you're doing what I'm trying to do, I'd love to talk to you. But basically what I'm building is, in my mind, the voice of the customer, and along with the data, right, that you get on your customers. And we have all of this fantastic data. We have telemetry data. We've got time to value. We've got all of our customer success metrics. We've got sentiment. We've got transactional. There's so much data. But what's really interesting is that data normally in other companies doesn't get overlaid with the voice of the customer, right? So does your metrics really and truly match with what your customers are saying? If they don't match, then we might need to take a good hard look at what's really going on.
Right.
When you have that overlay and you're looking at, those metrics from a lot of different angles, you then can engage, which is, what are you going to do about it? You can engage internally and externally. And I look at, so the program that I'm building is really based on 3 pillars, which is listen, learn, and engage. So it kind of goes back to that no hippopotamus syndrome that I was just being cheeky about. So really, I look at this as a flywheel. One feeds the other, and it's a big circle. You can I envision in my mind little cogs that kind of circle around. So first you're listening, which is, you've got, what are you hearing and where are you hearing it from? And you don't always have to survey your customers. You can listen in different ways. You can scrape social, you can use natural language processing, you can look at your metrics, you can look at your time to first value, you can look at your transactional surveys. And one of the things that I'm working with my team to build right now is, how do we take the customer journey? So we have a defined customer journey. We've sat down, predating me, the business sat down and they defined, the high level, this is our customer journey, and there's 8 points. Within each of those 8 points, right, you've got your sale and you've got your onboarding and so on and so forth. This is standard customer journey. But when you think about what happens in each of those steps in the customer journey, there are some critical engagement points, right? And I'll use the section of onboarding as an example. Critical engagement points for onboarding is the first time you access that technology, right? The first time you complete your educational process, the first time you deploy your product and release it to others in your organization. Those are three major critical engagement points. So when you look at those as an example, you have moments like those in other areas of the customer journey.
Moments of truth.
Moments of truth, critical engagement points.
Yeah.
What else do they call them? They call them moments that matter. And it depends on who you talk to as to what they're defined, you know, who calls them what. But really for me, it's about how do I insert listening posts into those various areas of the customer journey and then perform a real deep analysis around that. So as an example, if I've got, you know, a cohort of customers that are detractors. Well, why are they detractors? Let's inspect that, right? Did they get stuck at step 3 in the onboarding process? Are they the people that poke the blue button in the application and maybe they don't like the blue button? You know, and how are we overlaying those various metrics together to tell a broader story? Because what I want to be able to do is walk up to my chief customer officer and say, hey, I bet you I can reduce churn by 15%. And here's why. I found through looking at what our customers are saying and reviewing our metrics and our telemetry data, I have found that 2% of our customers that poke the blue button are the same 2% of the customers that get stuck in section 2 of our onboarding process. Let's go and tweak these things, right? And a lot of businesses aren't looking at their metrics in that way, and being able to tell that actual story is hard. It's hard because data is disparate. You know, sometimes data, the quality and the integrity of the data is questionable, right? It's hard on a lot of different levels. So the work that I have cut out for me is big. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I personally believe that being able to tell those stories internally to the organization then translates into customer goodness, because not only are we making our company materially better, when we make our company materially better, we service our customers even that much better. Right.
Yeah.
And that
makes sense. But I think one of the problems is that most companies obsess over churn and renewals and expansion revenue. And the problem with that, I mean, those are important metrics, but they're trailing indicators. Right. And there's not, and this is one of the issues I had, especially with a lot of the first generation customer success tools out there, is that there was this lack of focus on leading indicators, right? Are we the best way for you to get your customer to where they need to go is to manufacture that success. And in order for you to manufacture success, you need to make sure that the right people are doing the right things in the right ways at the right times. And whether that's a high touch and it's your people in conjunction with your customer that are doing those things, or that's a low touch where it's all on the customer and they're doing those things. But having, you know, it's a combination of the process and also, to your point, metering that process so that we can understand, hey, we're kind of going off track here, and then have the systems in place to say, you know, before that 2% kind of gets stuck, that we've got a system in place that says, even if it's a low touch, hey, they're going off track, you know, let's figure out how to get them back on track.
That's right. And that's where the engage pillar comes in of the strategy, because everything that I do is based on those 3 things. Yeah. And engage is, you know, my grandmother is in my ear, ounce of prevention, pound of cure, right? Which is, you know, hey, we've done this analysis and we see this to be true. Let's go fix this so that we can stave off future in the, you know. But there's also, again, remember that 80% of your most large companies aren't serviced by people. Yeah. Right? Because no company, no matter how big or small you are, can afford to hire a virtual army of customer success managers. And as startups get bigger and they bring on more and more customers, their customer success managers are doing more and more with less, right? Yeah. And then the larger companies, they've got thousands of CSMs, but those thousands of CSMs, because you've gone so far up market, you've got a 1-to-1 ratio now
Yeah.
between your customer success manager and your customer.
Right.
And so that doesn't, that's hard to scale. It's expensive.
It's very expensive.
It's so expensive to scale. And so that's where you take this listen, learn, and then engage. You engage internally, but you also engage externally. And so how can you use technology to enable, those customers to be more independent, to drive their own outcomes? You leverage everything from digital experience, what you see in the tech support world these days with chatbot and knowledge-based articles and AI driven support, right? So you leverage that, and then you leverage, like I said, I can almost envision, being able to build a listen, learn, and engage flywheel, or a model, as when one thing turns red, there's a system that recognizes that, and it starts firing off programmatic, right? And it might be in-app, in product, it might be email, it might be text messaging or Twitter. It could be any of those channels, right? Obviously, ideally, you'd want a multi-channel approach, but ideally, that's what that engage piece is really all about.
Right. No, yeah, it's engaging, and it's engaging with the right people, because to your point earlier, you can't just, it's not just about employing a playbook and correcting the course. It's analyzing, what sent them off course, and can we fix that? There was one company that I worked for in my career, and we were just masters at firefighting. The problem is that we never took the time, and it used to frustrate me. It's not because I didn't want to, but there were other executives in the organization wouldn't give me the time to sit down and figure out the root cause.
Right.
Why are we continue to get ourselves into this problem? We should be sitting down and figuring out how to avoid it.
Yeah. I mean, the dive and catch is so disruptive. It's disruptive to the customer. I mean, imagine the customer experience, internal customer success and customer success leadership and product and all of this. We're now sacrificing nights and weekends. We've got to develop code, push out code, QA. Customer success has got to be talking to the customer. I mean, like that amount of it's exhausting. It's exhausting on a lot of different levels, emotionally, for the team members and for the customer, by the way, because they're stressing out that whatever it is isn't working, or they're looking bad internal to their company because they chose, that vendor as an example. Yeah,
exactly. Right? They went out on a limb and chose you based off the promises that you made.
That's right. And then internal, it's exhausting to your team members. It's disruptive. It disrupts your product roadmap. It disrupts, financials. It disrupts a lot of things. And so I think that, really where tech touch, and it's kind of interesting because I've been looking at tech touch out in the market a lot more than I have in the past, actually, for obvious reasons. And it's fascinating to me because the market, in air quotes, defines tech touch in any gosh darn way. Inviting a customer to a webinar is considered tech touch. Sending an email to a customer is considered tech touch. Digital experience is considered tech touch. And then enacting, use cases and maturity assessments and automated success plans, and that's all considered tech touch. And it's really fascinating. I'll be interested to see the market mature their definition around tech touch into. My recommendation would be, if I could be so bold, would be
bold.
Predictions, machine learning, like mature that technology, get that out. That's the table stakes thing, because that's exactly what you and I are talking about, Andrew. In my mind, it is that you've got to get ahead of it, right?
Yeah.
So
got to get ahead of it. You've got to be in control of it. You need to, it's like a manufacturing line. We want, even though every customer is unique and every customer has their own outcomes, it's not as black and white as, building a Model T. They can have whatever they want, as long, whatever color they want, as long as it's black, right? It's not, but it's still a manufacturing line. right? And the more that we can approach customer success as a manufacturing line with the nuances for, taking into account the nuances for the different customers that that we inevitably have to solve for, the more we control our ability to deliver success. Customer success is very much something you're constantly constantly looking at and analyzing and evolving, and that's why I think this role that you have is even so important, especially for a company like VMware, and especially this direction that they're going, being really vested in the customer. I think that's a great sign for VMware.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up. There is something that I should add. When you look at Tech Touch, Voice of the Customer, when you look at any of these larger programs, and it doesn't matter the size of the company that you're with, incubating your approach is so critical. There's real credibility at stake. I mean, imagine a world in which you develop a Tech Touch that says, hey, Andrew, I see you didn't log in the last so-and-so days. Let me start serving you up this content. And you're like, what are you talking about? I logged in 5 minutes ago, right? There's serious cred at stake when you're beginning anything that you haven't tried before, or if you're rebuilding something in a new, innovative way, right? So I think that incubating, and you bring such a solid point up, Andrew, in that you've got to try it. You've got to try it. Try it with friendlies. Try it with very small cohort customers.
Try it manually. We're huge fans of try it. Don't automate it yet. Try it manually.
That's right. There is something to be said about the good old fashioned way before you start throwing technology at things.
Yeah,
so
definitely. You want to try it and fine tune it. Whenever we talk, when we have when we lay out our customer success engagement blueprint, and we've laid out all the different steps, one of the first things we tell people is like, you should not automate any of this, right out of the gate.
That's right.
Let's lay it all out. Let's get a group of people to start using this, and then once we've decided that we've tuned something, and we feel that it's something that's super repetitive, then let's talk about actually automating it. Right.
Yeah.
But you can't just flip a switch and say, okay, we're now Tech Touch for this segment. Got to try things.
Yeah, it's true. And you're going to iterate. I don't know anybody that has developed Tech Touch that nailed it on the first go around.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know anybody, right? I mean, most people, when you think about it, and as a matter of fact, I'm developing my team right now, and it's kind of interesting because I'm actually looking at that as one of the criteria. Did you deploy Tech Touch and did it fail? Because if your answer is yes, then I'm going to be like, okay, great. Now tell me it's that iteration, and what was the learning? Because it's not. It's a very nascent approach.
Yep.
It's defined 1,000 different ways, and not only that, but there's probably that many more ways to skin different use cases, or skin the cat, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, no cats have been harmed in the making of this program, by the way. Although I wouldn't put that past Marvel or Matrix.
I know. I was just going to say, I have 2 German Shepherds, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I know nothing about your German Shepherds and their proclivity to cats. Cool. It's great. I loved the conversation. I love talking about this stuff, and especially with you. You've got such a great perspective, such great experience. I appreciate you spending time with me today. I'm sure you're going to freaking knock it out of the park at VMware. They are very fortunate to have you, and thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. I'm equally as lucky to have them. This is the real deal. I'm so excited about the work that they're doing, and I love that I'm a part of it. This is fun. Likewise, it's been great speaking with you, and it's been great catching up. I'm so happy to hear that everybody is happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Well, we're not wealthy enough yet, but yes.
Hey, you know what? You're gonna get there. You are
happy, healthy, and wise. Happy, healthy, and wiser.
There you go, wiser.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Take care.